This is Joshua Hart from JTH Boxing. Today I'm here with Alex Guével. Alex, first of all, how are we doing?
Very well, thank you, mate. How are you?
I'm doing very well. So, like I said to you off camera, I've wanted to interview you for a while, but the stumbling block has been the last name. I've never actually fully known how to pronounce it. But here we are, we're here in Birmingham for a big NXT Gen show. First of all, how excited are you for this card on Saturday night?
Really excited, mate. You know, to have an Olympic gold medalist and Galal Yafai headlining the card, fantastic. There's some really, really good talent, coming through the card. It is that next gen, so we're looking at the kids that are, the guys that are going to be future superstars. And, you couldn't get better than Galal Yafai. Everyone knows he's going to go on to bigger and better things. It's a really exciting show.
I think one of the fights on the card that's really caught the public's eye is Jordan Flynn versus Kane Baker. So they've had that first fight in April. That was a great fight. It's one that went under the radar a little bit the first time around, but this time it's massive. English title eliminator. There's a lot of bad blood. How excited are we for that fight, especially?
Absolutely. Like the build-up, it's been really, really quite entertaining, isn't it? Both guys really want to sort of set the record straight after the last one. So fair play to them. I think it's definitely captured the public's imagination. And as I say, there's loads of great cards on the great fights on the card. And it'd be interesting. Who knows who's going to come out on top?
I just want to talk about your role in Matchroom. Obviously, is it the head of community development? So what is your role? Can you see a lot of people when they first saw you get announced as the head of community development? It was a role that we've not really seen before. Can you explain to the people what your role is? Yeah,
so for a long time I've always wanted to kind of help bridge the gap between the professional side of the sport and the amateurs. So my background, I used to work for England Boxing for 5.5 years. Working at the sort of within the grassroots community clubs. As I say, for a long time I wanted to help bridge that gap, connect the two. And over the course of probably like a 2-3 year period, I've been in conversations with Frank Smith and Matchroom around how could I do that in my previous role when I was with England, but now I guess Frank probably, long story short, Frank probably thought, well, it's easier to get this guy on board and we can do a lot more under the kind of Matchroom banner and shine a light on what's going on in the amateur side of the sport. So there's that. There's we have a charitable foundation at Matchroom too, where we're looking to sort of invest back into community initiatives. So there's all sorts that we got planned. But as you saw earlier in the week, we had a great visit to Acox Green, and those kind of visits are going to be like the nuts and bolts, one of the main things I'm going to be doing around fight weeks.
And just how good is it going to these amateur clubs? Obviously, when you see this type of boxing, Matchroom, all the promotions, there's always a lot of politics involved. There's money, drug testing. Obviously, that's a big talking point at the moment, drug testing. When you go to these amateur gyms, none of that is a problem. It's just a bunch of people there who solely love the sport. How good is it to go there and just see all these people loving the sport and doing it, not for money, not for fame, but doing it for the passion?
It's what it's all about, mate. Like, that's what we want to do. We've got an amazing platform at Matchroom, and we want to, show more people this is what's happening in these gyms. Everyone always says, boxing gyms get kids off the street. They're a safe space for people. They are, and we can show that because we've got a huge platform. So that's what we want to do. You saw how excited Eddie was to be there the other day, getting involved. I think he nailed about 50 press-ups in the press-up challenge. He's an absolute machine, and you can see how excited he is to be there. He inspires the kids, the fighters, when they go out there, inspire the kids. And also, from our perspective, it helps to kind of build the fighters in a different way, promote them in a different way, and it connects them with, they all started at that level. That's where we're going to find the next load of talent as well. But for those guys, they all started at that level, and it sort of reminds them this is where we were, and then it makes it very sort of relatable for the kids too. They see, like the other day, Sol Dakers, that's his actual gym at Acox Green, and it makes it very kind of relatable, very sort of realistic that we could go on and we could do what Sol's doing. So that's what it's all about.
And obviously when the fighters go down as well, it's just an added bit. Obviously having Eddie there and everything, it's all well and good. Obviously Eddie is the big man, but obviously when you have all the fighters coming down, you can see them getting involved. We saw it last week. You have Brandon Scott, Johnny Fisher, Maze Rose Courtney. They were all down there. There's even more fighters there as well. Do you think having the fighters get involved with it as well is just an even better thing? It really, some of these kids, they look up to these types of people. Obviously I know they're not necessarily the biggest names when the undercard fighters go down, but they're still big inspirations to these children, aren't they?
They're brilliant role models, all of them. Like we saw last week, Johnny Fisher, after the visit, Johnny Fisher was messaging me saying, mate, let me know when the next one is. I want to be involved. I want to do more of these. All the fighters, George Liddard, Maisie, Brandon, all of them, they loved it last week, and it's exactly the same this week. They're fantastic role models. Also, when you think about it, in the build-up around a fight week, there's all sorts of different media commitments, other bits and pieces that they do. It's a really quite fun, engaging way for the fighters to get involved. It's far more fun to be down in an amateur boxing gym than it is sitting around the hotel feeling hungry. Takes your mind off things, just before the weigh-in and those kind of things. So I think it's mixing it up nicely for them. It helps promote them in a different way, and it's a bit of a no-brainer for everyone, really.
Do you think it's something that should be done in more? Obviously, when you look at the other promotions, they don't do things like this. They don't go to amateur clubs. Do you think it's something that should be done more?
I think it's if the other promoters want to get behind these kind of initiatives as well, absolutely. The more people that are doing it, the more that we help to connect the professional side of the sport with the amateurs, and that is what it's all about. Shining a light on that amazing work. We've got an incredible platform at Matchroom, but equally so have other people. So, I would encourage more people to do it. But as I say, I'm more focused on what we're doing at Matchroom, and we're going to be the biggest and the best as we always are.
I just want to move away from your role, and I want to talk about obviously your role as a coach, a cut man. Obviously, just back at the end of July, we saw Eithan James pick up his first professional title. Obviously, being a good mate of Eithan, I was absolutely buzzing for him. As a team, how happy were you for Eithan to finally get his hands on a title? Oh,
delighted for Eithan. I think it was his third time lucky going for that title. So, he's had to overcome a bit of adversity with that. Ethan's a great lad. He's a real character, as you know, and it's great to see him building, getting those titles, getting opportunities. He's a really, really talented guy, and we're all made up for him. And as I say, I know he's given you a lot of his time in the past. You know what he's like as a character. I think he's on holiday at the minute, and he'll be back in the gym and looking to build onto even bigger and better things.
I saw it on his Instagram last night. He's already willing. He's already said he wants fight news again. He wants to get back in the ring. Will he also be looking for a defence of that title? I know he said he wants an international opponent. Is that what you as a team would like to get him as well?
I would imagine so. It's really down to James, to be honest, and the team to look at that. James Conway is his head coach. I'll rock up on the night, wrap his hands, and hope he doesn't get cut again. Obviously, what he's shown already in the win over Keenan Wainwright, he can overcome adversity. He had two bad cuts, got dropped in the first round and overcame that. He's had a gut check and he's passed it with flying colours. So I expect Ethan to go on to real big things, to be honest.
Do you think having those fight cancellations, obviously, is that the last fight? That's what I meant to say. Yeah, that was his third time going for the title. Do you reckon those previous two times where he prepared for it and then didn't get it, do you reckon all that was is just putting him in good stead? Obviously, I know it wasn't ideal getting these last minute replacements, but do you reckon that only benefited him?
Anything like anything in life, when you have to go overcome adversity, you learn lessons. And I think for Ethan, the fact that those things happen at the time, you're kind of like, oh my god, nightmare. But actually, it makes you stronger. It builds character. And as I say, even getting dropped in that first round and the cuts and everything, at the time you kind of think, oh my god, we don't want this. But it builds character. It builds resilience. And I think Ethan will be in a better place for it.
Obviously, we've also got some big fight news for Kieran. Conway's had his British title eliminator against Udofia. It's been rescheduled for October 7th. How happy are we to get this fight? Obviously, I know it got ordered, but obviously got cancelled the first time round. It didn't happen. Was there any doubts that it wasn't going to get rescheduled, or was it always in the whole team's mind that this fight was going to be made again?
Yeah, Kieran's focused on that fight. He had a couple of niggles in preparation for the original fight, but no, Kieran's focused on that fight, and it's an important fight for his career. But he's very confident of bringing the victory home, and I expect him to as a mate and as a member of the team. So it's an amazing card to be part of as well. We're looking to do loads of stuff around that from a matchroom perspective, community wise, and I mean, what a fantastic atmosphere it's going to be, bringing Nottingham and Leeds down, meet in the middle in Sheffield. I can't wait for that one, to be fair.
When I spoke to Kieran, he voiced his frustration of obviously not getting these big fights. When he got to fight on the Wood Lara card in February, he was very frustrated about being very early on the card. He was second fight on before the bell. This time he definitely will not be on before the bell. He'll be very high up the card. Do you reckon just things like that as well just adds to his excitement, adds to that fire when he's training, preparing for this fight?
Of course it does. When you're under the bright lights, I think every fighter, you get the best out of every fighter. Kieran's no different. This is a big fight. It's a very live game opponent. Linus is an excellent fighter. I know they've sparred years gone by in the past. We know Linus is no joke. He's coming to win, so is Kieran. And as a member of his team, I fully expect him to get the win.
We talked about the main event that night. Obviously, being a man from Nottingham, I'm a very big fan of Lee Ward, but I'm also quite a big fan of Josh Warrington. It's a great fight. If I wasn't a man from Nottingham, I'd just simply sit back and enjoy the fight for what it is, but I've got to back my local fighter. How excited are we for this main event? Obviously, it's something that's been talked about for a while. There was a lot of doubt that it wasn't going to happen, but it's over the line. How excited are we for it, October 7th?
Honestly, mate, I can't wait. I genuinely think the atmosphere... You saw the promo that went out that Matchroom released.
I was actually there for it.
Unreal, right? It just gets it gives you sort of like goosebumps thinking about that atmosphere, bringing that kind of like football feel to it in different ways. Obviously it's boxing, but you're going to have that kind of football sort of atmosphere around it. Both guys, they're such amazing role models to the community. Josh and Lee, could you meet two nicer guys in boxing? It's all going to descend onto Sheffield. As I say, we've got loads of amazing community stuff planned around that week too. That's really quite excited about, as well as the fight. So I can't wait for it.
The final one from me, AJ last week, obviously he was in there against Robert Helenius. What did you make of his performance?
Do you know what? I actually missed the fight because I was at my mate's wedding. I have watched little clips back and stuff, and I saw mainly the finish. And it was classic AJ. To be honest with you, it was a great finish. What an amazing event as well to be part of it. Matchroom did an amazing job of still putting the event on, and sort of getting all the undercard fighters paid, getting AJ out again. Hopefully building some bigger and better things too. So yeah, as I say, I actually missed it live, but it's just great to see AJ back in the win column and building some bigger things.
Do you think him landing that knockout is going to regain his confidence? Obviously, before this fight, he hadn't landed a knockout since 2020. Do you think that knockout against Helenius is going to give him that confidence back and remind him who he really is and that power that he's got going into this big Deontay Wilder fight?
I'd like to think so. You've seen that in the past with other fighters. So yeah, I fully expect AJ to he's got that win under his belt, build now, and hopefully we'll have some news on bigger things to come in the future. But for me, the highlight of last week has to be the visit to Limehouse. That was just amazing. The turnout from the gym, the impact that the content that we put out has had now with the club and the young fighters, all the kids that came down, the response, and we do a post-event survey now from those to get some feedback, and 100% of the kids just felt more inspired, more confident, empowered, more resilient from that visit. So that's what it's all about for me.
Well, Alex, I'm going to let you go now. Pleasure to talk to you, and I just want to say thank you for all these community events you put on. While I'm not necessarily involved in it, you can see how much it means to these people, so I can only respect you for what you're doing. Thank you for talking to me today.
Thank you very much, mate. My pleasure.